Have you ever had to make a decision without knowing what would happen next? Not knowing if it would work out, not knowing if you're making the right choice, not knowing what effect it would have on your future. Most of us wish we could see the future before making decisions. We want certainties, we want guarantees, but the truth is, our future is unwritten. We write it ourselves, line by line, decision by decision, often without realizing how important these decisions will become. And today, I want to share a few small moments from my life. At the time, they felt like quiet, insignificant events. But later, they taught me something important about cause and effect and about the unwritten future. So one of the first moments happened to me when I was very young, around 3.5, 4 years old. It was a regular Sunday, and my dad had just arrived from the bazaar. And I remember not expecting much, just the regulars, groceries, and the other things usually bought. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw my dad come home with 2 yellow chicks. I immediately started playing with them, feeding them, trying to figure them out. And at first, they were so small they could fit right in the palm of my hand. But as the days passed, they kept growing bigger and bigger. And soon without me realizing it, that also became a hobby for me. It all felt like a real responsibility until one day they grew too big for the house, and that's when I learned that we had given them away. At first, I remember feeling sad and confused. Why did we have to give them away? Why couldn't things just stay the same? What would happen to them? But later, I realized something important. I realized that giving them away was actually the beginning of a better story for them. They had more space to grow and people who could actually look after them. And that moment taught me something simple but powerful. Sometimes letting go isn't losing something. Sometimes it's allowing something better to happen. And then a second similar moment to me happened when I was around 7 years old. One day, while my sister Mia and I were playing in the garden, my dad suddenly arrived home with a dog in his hands. Once again, we were completely shocked since another unexpected animal had just entered our lives. We took her in and named her Murphy. We took care of her, fed her, walked her, and grew a great bond over the year that we had her, until one day everything changed again. We decided to move to a new country and couldn't bring Murphy with us. So we decided to temporarily give her away to my grandma for her to take care of Murphy. And at first, the plan was simple. 3-4 months, and then we'd take Murphy back when we returned. But these 3-4 months turned into 2.5 years. And we didn't know what would happen during this time. When we returned, we expected my grandma to either look too exhausted or give it back immediately. But none of these were the case. My grandma had grown an incredible bond with Murphy, and Murphy was happier than ever. She had a whole garden and a person who took care of her way better than we did. So we made a difficult decision. We let Murphy stay. Once again, something that felt like losing something actually turned out to be the better way. The third, final, and most important event that taught me this lesson happened when I was around 8 years old. And it was the move that caused us to leave Murphy behind. Our move to America. Now imagine arriving somewhere new, a new country, new people, new culture, new environment, and not being able to speak a single word. Well, that was me. I couldn't understand conversations. Talking with classmates, talking with teachers, answering teachers, all felt impossible. There are moments where I felt lost. Moments I wondered if I'd ever catch up, and moments I questioned if my efforts were actually helping. And then, something that seemed far less significant, but turned out to be that special moment happened. My teachers helped me. And what made that special was that none of us knew what the outcome would be. They didn't know if I'd learn quickly. They didn't know if their efforts would help. They didn't know what the outcome would be. They didn't know I'd be standing on the stage doing a TEDx years later. But they helped anyway. They spent time explaining things. They were patient and believed that improvement was possible even when the results weren't immediate. And soon, things began to change. A word became a sentence became a conversation, and in 1.5 years, I was almost level with everyone else. And now, looking back now, I realized something. My teachers didn't help because success was guaranteed. They helped because sometimes the most important actions taken in life are the ones taken without certainty. Their decision to help was the cause, and the effect was a future that slowly opened new doors for me. And now, going off of this, considering all three of these events, a statement really starts to make sense. As Steve Jobs once said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. At the time, none of these moments felt connected. Giving away my animals, my teachers' help in small ways, they felt separate, random, uncertain. But looking back now, I can see how they connect. How one moment led to another. How small actions created bigger outcomes. How insignificant looking events were actually shaping my future the entire time. And in science, there's also a concept that describes this idea, and it's called the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect comes from a field of study called the chaos theory, and it was popularized by a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz in the 1960s. While studying weather patterns, Lorenz discovered that changing something as small as a decimal in his calculations changed his entire outcome. And this is where the phrase comes from, that a flap of a butterfly's wings in one part of the world can create a storm in the other. And now, it doesn't matter if a flap of a butterfly's wing creates a storm, but it shows something deeper. In complex systems like weather or life, small actions matter more than we think. Think about it. A short conversation, a small decision, helping someone out for a few minutes, giving something away, these don't feel significant. They don't seem like turning points. But just like in the chaos theory, each of these events can set off a chain of events. One action leads to another, that leads to another, and over time, the effects grow. And when I look back at my experiences, I can also see this pattern clearly. Giving away my animals, my teachers' help in small ways, these felt like events that would have a minimal effect on my future. But they mattered, because each of these events were a starting point, a small cause that created effects far bigger than I could see at the time. And that's what makes the butterfly effect so powerful. It shows us that we don't need big, dramatic effects to create change. And that connects me back to the unwritten future idea. Many people are afraid of uncertainty. We want clear plans, we want guarantees, but maybe the future isn't supposed to be it. Maybe it isn't something to fear, and instead it's something that gives possibility. Because if it weren't, our actions wouldn't matter. But they do. Every small action adds a new sentence to the story. So maybe the next time you face uncertainty, remember this. You're still creating something important. And one day, when you look back, you may realize that the moments you almost ignored were the moments that mattered the most. Because the future isn't something we discover. It's something we create. One small action at a time. Thank you.